Hello, my name is Mark, one of the Twin Lakes pastors, and thank you for joining me today. I want to speak to you in particular if you're feeling overwhelmed in the wake of the terrible fire in Lahaina, the mounting loss of lives, overwhelmed perhaps by the marking of the third anniversary of the CZU Lightning Complex fire here in Santa Cruz, overwhelmed by things in your own life that don't make the headlines, but are nonetheless crippling, if you will, because it seems like there's no end to it. There's no solution or progress towards a solution that you would welcome. And in view of all this, I was thinking of a major event in Scripture, which is when Solomon's temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BC. Can you imagine the center of their spiritual, national, cultural life? Everything is in that basket in the temple, and then it is reduced to rubble. Not only that, but many of them are then dragged off to Babylon to serve the Babylonians as slaves. And yet there's the promise that the day would come when the exiles would return, and with that, an anticipation, expectation that a new temple could be constructed. And so fast forward to that time, a guy named Zerubbabel, who is a descendant of David, he's the governor of Judah under the authority of the king of Persia, a guy named Cyrus. And Cyrus gives Zerubbabel the green light to start building. And then there's political opposition, and the project stalls to a halt. The next couple kings in Persia say, no, you can't build, until another king named Darius emerges and says, yeah, you can do that. But by then, 17 years have gone by. They got a little bit of a start, started to lay foundation, but there's far more rubble than there is building for 17 long years. And then it seems like there's an opportunity, but it's not a political problem now. It's a sense of hopelessness and despair that's causing the progress to stall out. And so the promise comes through the prophet Zechariah, who's also on the scene. And he says, speaking for the Lord in chapter 4 of Zechariah at verse 6, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, the guy in charge of the rebuilding project. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit will you essentially be able to complete this task. Don't look to your own resources. Don't look to how many heads you can count or how much you have in terms of, wherewithal. It's going to happen through the power of God's Spirit. And the same is true for us. The obstacles that we face, if we face them in our own strength, we will quickly become overwhelmed. But if we look to the power of God to work in and through us, well then, there's no greater power than that. And the outcomes don't always look the way we want, but God promises to work in and through us in order to accomplish His good purposes. That's the first thing. Not by might nor by power, but by God's Spirit do we face these obstacles in our lives. And then secondly, I love this at verse 10, same chapter 4 of Zechariah. God says, who dares despise the day of small things? Zerubbabel and your countrymen, don't look down your nose at little small bits of progress, because God is in those little things, moving things toward an outcome that may seem impossible, and yet little by little God continues to achieve what He desires to do. And so today, look for the little things. Don't despise them. Celebrate them and be encouraged that in those little things and by the power of God's Spirit, though the obstacles seem immense, though the devastation beyond what we can even comprehend in some situations, God is greater and bigger and stronger than all of those things. And so be filled with hope and confidence in these truths today. Thanks again for joining me. God bless you, and be well.